So I've been catching up on some Resident Evil lately on the road towards Resident Evil Requiem at the end of the month. I just reviewed Resident Evil 2, I thought that was great, truly a game that plays so well. I then had a bit of time in between games and I realised that I might as well play Resident Evil 3 since it's so short and it'd be nice to get another Resident Evil done before the next game. Still can't say Resident Evil fast, no, I can't say it, what am I talking about? I can't say it quickly without going oh, this has done wonders for the intro. I've heard that Resident Evil 3, at least the remake, is touted as being inferior to Resident Evil 2. The game runs a lot quicker, there's some cut content, and a lot of people say that 3 is more of a DLC for 2, that it's not different enough. I can't fully disprove any of this, and I think these things are fair to say, although I do think 3 is more different than people give it credit for. But this game does not deserve the broad score of 7 out of 10 the community and critics seem to have given it. And for what it's worth, hot take, I actually enjoyed Resident Evil 3 more than Resident Evil 2. I think some of this game's most endearing parts are where it feels like its predecessor. I think the differences it makes in its gameplay and structure are really good, which adds to the base layer of these Resident Evil games being incredibly fun and well made. It has its shortcomings, but I love this experience so much. It's tight and it's engaging in its setting and gameplay. I think people sell this short, and yes, I haven't played the original, but as a first time, this game's awesome. Alright, so let's talk about the basic gameplay of this and what it does new. Resident Evil 3 keeps mostly the same formula for the action parts of the game as Resident Evil 2. You collect different guns, from a pistol to a shotgun to a grenade launcher, and to an extent you have to manage their limited ammo. This is a staple of Resident Evil games because if you run out of ammo, you normally have to switch to running tactics or use a significantly less powerful alternative like the knife. And trust me, you do not want to be using the knife in this game. I'm pretty sure I stabbed one of these zombies at least 15 times and they still ran at me like nothing happened. If this virus ever breaks out in the UK, we are truly done for. A large part of this game is the action because the puzzling segments from Resident Evil 2 are here, but they take more inspiration from the sewer level than the lab level, where you solve puzzles in a mostly linear area in a linear path. There's nothing like RPG in this game, but you do get these somewhat explorable areas like the town and the hospital. In these, you follow one string of puzzles that's serviceable enough and that I enjoyed because I genuinely love this gameplay loop and the rest of the game that I'm going to talk about soon. But I do think there is a group of people that are going to find these puzzles too mindless to be able to consider them a great part of the game. I like them as a way through these incredible feeling areas because I love being in this world. But without RPD and a lot of things from Resident Evil 2 carrying over to this game, some people may see this as a step back instead of forward. There's no puzzle environment that tickles you the way RPG does, but that wasn't really an issue for me because I really enjoyed how action focused this game was. There's one new thing in this game that really changes the way I look at it from an action standpoint, and that is the fact that this game gives you a dodge button, which allows you to escape enemy attacks if you get the timing right. Talking about that will make a lot more sense if I introduce my thoughts on the rest of the action and the enemy design though, so let me explain those things first. I used to be terrified of zombies. I hated how they could turn people you know into them. I hated how they would reach for you. I hated how they would surprise you, and I hated how they would hardly ever appear alone. The way they grabbed and ripped away from you and how they weren't this truly mystical thing really scared me. Like, the concept of a contagious virus feels entirely possible. It happened 6 years ago, it just didn't turn everyone into zombies. Zombies felt scary because on top of all those things I said, you would also think about how possible it could be that one day they could be real. I used to swear off anything with zombies after watching that one scene in Shaun of the Dead where that guy gets pulled through the window in the pub and gets ripped apart, and I was like 10 when I saw that. Oh, you know, life-changing trauma. I've got it so bad. At some point in the last few years, I stopped caring though. I saw a bunch of zombie films that I felt really reduced their threat. I played some games with them in, a couple hours of some survival ones ages ago, a bit of Days Gone, like really a bit, and now the Resident Evil 4 and 2 games. Resident Evil 4, I think, completely cleansed me of any in-the-moment fear I had of zombies because the ones in that game hardly looked like them, and it was such an action game that there was no thrill from fear. Resident Evil 2 was the first time in a very long time that I'd consumed something with zombies in that felt real. It felt slowed down, it put a spotlight on the zombies, it made them look real. They reached out and grabbed you and bit you and moved in these lopsided ways, and you were always in this trapped indoor setting, even if you had bullets and could run away. The zombies in Resident Evil 2 were one of my favourite parts of that game, and it really put the tension back in zombies. Zombies in this game continue the pattern of feeling unsafe. It shocks me every time I walk past a body on the ground, wondering if it'll reanimate, especially the ones I never shot down myself, and then finding that reanimated zombie I never touched now alive and standing there waiting for me to come into their room. I was quite impressed with the way zombies appear. They're so creepy when they walk out into the open round a corner, when you find them strolling around a claustrophobic room, or when you open a door and see one already limping at you, and then that one zombie that jumped out of a car. These scares where you encounter a zombie never feel cheap. It's because you encounter them at so many different moments and in so many ways that they feel real. There's no formula on how a zombie will appear, even if when they reanimate, you finding them first or them finding you first doesn't change the end result of you shooting them. The game manages to make these enemies feel dynamic and real even though there's just one type. They feel threatening and morbid. These zombies are sneaky too. I was on edge a lot in this game. Something about the way these enemies appear to you or the atmosphere had me more shaken than when I played Resident Evil 2 or 4. I think this is because there are more of what you would call jump scares in this game. There's never any, something jumping at the screen, flashing images, that sort of thing. It's just how clever and scary these enemy placements and initial interactions can be. These zombies felt sneakier. I would walk into a room and get scared by a zombie I didn't think would be there or that I thought I knocked down before, and this happened a lot more times than in Resident Evil 2. The environments developed as you went through them in that game as well, but this game really caught me off guard because I think the zombies in this feel more aggressive. I had this one moment in the hospital where I entered this hallway I'd been in several times before, planning to go to the left, when I see this thing run across the hallway in front of me. The safe space you make by combing through these rooms almost never stays safe, making you cautious running through every part of an area unless it's a safe room. Not long after I had that scare, I then had a moment which made me jump more than any other game has made me jump in a very long time, where a zombie fell out of a locker when I opened it, which sounds really stupid because this happened in Resident Evil 2, but by the time I got to this part of the game in Resident Evil 3, I'd been chipped away by little scares that I hadn't felt in another one of these games, and I was also playing late at night with the sound up quite a lot, so this whole section I was more tense than usual. The whole time I was in the locker room, I was actually expecting to open a locker and have a zombie fall out, but I convinced myself it wouldn't happen by the third or fourth locker I checked, because it hadn't happened in this game yet. Let me tell you, I had not physically reacted like this to a scare in so long. Your experience will probably vary, because absolutely no one is putting Resident Evil 3 in their list of scariest games of all time, but I think in my experience this game felt a lot more scary and a lot more real than Resident Evil 2, something which contrasts the action nicely, because an increase in action naturally makes the zombies and atmosphere less tense, but I think they've balanced the two quite nicely. Every main gameplay element of this game, from the action focus to the resource management to the oppression and atmosphere, all gets affected by this one shiny new mechanic, and that is that you have a dodge button here. This dodge button is a double-edged sword because it enhances the action but dulls the resource management and the horror of this game in return. This dodge button ranges from useful to completely necessary, because you can use it in low pressure environments to conserve ammo if you get good at dodging the zombie grabs, or you can use it in a high pressure environment with no ammo to completely get around the fact that you have no ammo. There's not really any risk or thrill when it comes to the ammo side of resource management, because you always have this thing in your back pocket that can get you out of any situation, and it's not a tool that has a very difficult skill curve. This obviously applies to zombie encounters too, because as frightening and as well done as these initial encounters can be, the dodge button makes the zombies not feel scary anymore when you get good at it, because you know that no matter what, you can press one button and they can't do a thing. Sometimes you'll get the timing wrong and they bite you, but that's simple to heal up from. Slowly over the course of this game, dodging past these zombies makes them feel less and less threatening. They would still scare you when they appeared, and that's great, but because there's no stress in wondering what resources to use or if you'll have enough, they felt more cheap when you tried to dodge past them, and more arduous when you shot them because you know that you could be instead dodging around them. Sure, if you dodged past too many zombies, some areas would be more difficult to get back through than if you'd fully clean them out with guns, but there's nothing a few shots of the grenade launcher and some more dodging couldn't fix. Apart from the zombies, there were a handful of other fun enemies though. You have the classic big monsters in the sewers and these hunters who have big claws and can one-shot you, but are also very weak to shoulder charges from Carlos when you play as him. The heavy hitter here is the Nemesis, who is essentially the main villain of the game. He jumps you quite a lot, and then you have these chase sequences which aren't hard to get out of because you just hold forward. Occasionally he'll be in the world itself and throw hands with you, and you kind of have to avoid a few zombies, and those parts of the game were okay. He's definitely not the most threatening big bad I've ever faced, but that might be because I lost all tension I had with him after an impressive first hour or so of the game, when he decided to give me one especially not very scary chase. There's this section where he chases you through a building under construction, and this must be one of the least threatening moments I've ever had playing a horror game. He's behind you and you're making these big jumps through this building he's setting on fire, but it feels so friendly. The music is completely subdued, there's almost no alarm in it. The Nemesis is there, but he's not really attacking you. He's always a ways behind, just playing with his flamethrower. He just makes an absolute fool of himself, and then I didn't really care about him for the the rest of the game. His boss fights are fun, I enjoyed them, I'll give him that, but to me he wasn't anything more than okay to good. I did really like these cutscenes where he shows off his incredible strength and how formidable he is, like when he grabs your head on the way out of the sewers and lifts you up, but the moments where he was failing to get in the way of you kind of outweighed the actual cool stuff he did. Your main character for this game is Jill Valentine, along with the secondary protagonist Carlos, who gets some smaller playable sections. I'm gonna compare this game's story to Resident Evil 2's story because, again, the comparison between the two seems to be a big talking point, and it's something I thought a lot about while playing. I want to say first that I only played through Resident Evil 2 once. I know that some things change when you play the B route with the other character, but the levels and the general path in the game don't change enough for me to have wanted to play the game again. I'm saying this because I'm pretty sure Leon's story is more involved, with more characters and slightly different plot points. I played as Claire, and her mission was sort of just get through the police department and then save this girl she met along the way. That's a nice story to tell, right? But not a lot happens. There aren't really any course changes or roadblocks, it's just a nice simple story of getting to the end and saving Sherry. Resident Evil 3 could be considered the same by some, but I actually enjoyed this story far more than Resident Evil 2. I like how spontaneous a lot of the story felt. Raccoon City is in chaos, and this story reflects that far more than Resident Evil 2's did. All Jill wants to do is escape and save as many people as she can on the way, but that story feels dynamic. Nemesis gets in her way time and time again. She has to go on so many different adventures to different places in order to figure out how to get out, because the situation she's in keeps getting worse and worse. It's a tale of the survivors of the outbreak, more so than Resident Evil 2's tale of hero saving the day with a backdrop of zombies that you don't really see the true effects of. In this game, you see the city from different angles. You spend time in it, above ground, in all manner of places. You do go underground in the same sort of places as Resident Evil 2, like the lab and sewers, but you also spend a lot of time outside, and I really appreciated that because I got a much stronger sense of how dire being in this city was. You see a bunch of other humans, all trying to get out. You get to talk to a fair few of them as well and hear what's happening. There's human contact and connection in this. One of the main plot points is that Raccoon City is days away from being blown up, so you get that sense that the characters just really want and need to get out of here, all while the stuff that's going on is slowing them down, and I found that quite gripping. I liked having a second main character that wasn't a child we needed to save. It was grounding to see conversation about the zombies and their city happening, where I didn't really get much of that in the last game. I know you get to see Ada and Leon's story in Resident Evil 2, which is why I wanted to preface this, but with the places you go in that game, you more so get to see a glimpse of what was happening behind the scenes and not what's happening on the stage, like you do in this game. I really enjoyed following along with this story and getting to grasp the places and the feelings of the people in this city and how the zombie outbreak and impending destruction of the whole place loomed over everything. I will say Nemesis is the main villain maybe, but there's another guy who's fighting for that spot. I did not find him that good. He's fine. I can't really remember his name. I just remember laughing a lot at Neil Newborn trying to do a Russian impression and getting so many slips of a posh English accent in his lines.
The town's crawling with those freaks. No chance of fighting our way out of the city.
Really made me smile quite a lot. The last main point I have kind of piggybacks off the last point I made, and that's that at the end of it, I just really loved being in these places. This probably won't be applicable for most of you, it's kind of just a personal reason as to why I enjoyed this game a lot. Every time I loaded this up, I just got a wave of love for the space I'm in. I haven't played many games in modern settings with good graphics, it's normally other worlds I'm in. This is partially also because I now have a computer for the first time and everything I play on it is beautiful. But for me, as someone who's never normally playing a game with a realistic setting, if you ignore the zombies, I got some whiplash being in a cutting-edge hospital building or running around the city. These places add a layer of realism to the game and the horror for me. They're just so lifelike. I loved walking into a new room that looked just like one I'd find in real life and then finding zombies hanging out there. It was really immersive. I have truly felt in the game with these last two Resident Evil games. I think I do prefer Resident Evil 3 slightly more for its setting and style and scarier moments. It's definitely a different style with fewer puzzles and this more action-oriented approach, but I found these things adding up to be a more fun experience than I had with Resident Evil 2. It's definitely close though. I can't wait to review Resident Evil 3 for you people, and I'll definitely get around to playing 7 and Village sometime this year too. Might leave 5 and 6 for a bit though. That's it from me. I hope you enjoyed this review. I think I was really quiet in this one because I went to bed so late and I'm kind of slurring my speech. I don't even know what's happening. I'm so tired. I'm so out of it. But hopefully it didn't change anything. Anyway, I'm just yapping. See you soon.